You don't get rich by chance, and you don't get wise by accident. Success is not something you stumble upon. It's something you build, one idea at a time, one book at a time, one lesson at a time. Most people want success, but they ignore the one thing that guarantees it: education. Not school, not college, but a daily commitment to learning, because here's what I've learned. A man who stops learning starts dying. The moment you stop growing is the moment life starts passing you by. The worst thing in life is not being broke. The worst thing is being broke in your mind, thinking small, acting small, living small, because you never expanded your thinking. And let me tell you, the only way to break free is to educate yourself daily. Most people don't fail because they're not capable. They fail because they refuse to learn. They get comfortable with what they know and never ask what else is possible. But those who commit to learning every day unlock doors that others don't even see. Success is not a mystery. It's not hidden in a vault somewhere, locked away from the rest of the world. Success leaves clues. The people who have walked the path before you have left behind the steps, the signs, the lessons, and all you have to do is follow them. Now, here's where most people get it wrong. They try to figure everything out on their own. They struggle, they guess, they wander aimlessly, hoping one day they'll stumble upon the right formula. But why reinvent the wheel when someone else has already done the work? If you want success, whether it's in wealth, business, health, or relationships, you must become a student of those who have already succeeded. I remember when I was just starting out, filled with ambition but lacking direction. Then I got introduced to a simple idea. Study successful people, read their books, listen to their words, observe their habits, and most importantly, apply their lessons. That changed everything for me. I realized that success wasn't about luck or chance. It was a set of principles, repeated consistently over time. If you want to be wealthy, study the wealthy. What do they do? How do they think? What are their daily habits? What decisions do they make that others don't? If you want to be physically fit, don't ask someone who's struggling with their health. Find the people who have mastered it and learn from them. The fastest way to reach any goal is to find someone who has already achieved it and follow their example. Now let's talk about why this works. Human psychology tells us that our beliefs and behaviors are shaped by those we associate with and learn from. If you spend time with successful people, whether in person, through books, or even by listening to their teachings, you begin to think like them. And once you start thinking like them, you start making decisions like them. Before you know it, your life begins to change. Many years ago, I met a man who had built tremendous wealth. I asked him, what's the secret? He said, it's not one secret. It's a way of thinking. Then he told me, find someone who has what you want and do what they do. So I started to study. I read books. I listened to speeches. I paid attention to how successful people use their time. And I noticed something. Every successful person had a different story, but the principles were the same. Discipline, vision, hard work, learning. They all believed in taking responsibility. They all had clear goals. They all invested in their education. They surrounded themselves with the right people. A wise man once said, if I have seen further, it is by standing on the shoulders of giants. That's the key. You don't need to start from scratch. The giants are already there. You just have to climb up and learn from them. The problem is most people don't want to be students. They want the rewards, but they don't want the discipline of learning. They say, I don't have time to read, or I don't need to study. I'll figure it out. And yet they wonder why they're struggling. Here's a test. If you're not where you want to be in life, take a look at who you're learning from. Are you listening to people who have already achieved what you want? Or are you listening to people who are just as lost as you are? If you're taking financial advice from someone who is broke, you're in trouble. If you're getting business advice from someone who has never built a business, be careful. If you're listening to someone who has never achieved what you're after, you're following the wrong clues. Let me give you a practical example. Let's say you want to build wealth. You could spend years trying to figure out investments, cash flow, business strategies, and wealth building principles on your own. Or you could study those who have already done it. Read the books of those who made millions. Listen to their teachings. Learn from their mistakes. And here's the best part. Successful people want to share their wisdom. They write books, they give talks, they leave behind their lessons so that others can learn. The question is, are you paying attention? One of the greatest lessons I ever learned was this: if you're not learning, you're losing. Every day you go without learning is a day wasted. Every day you don't study success is a day you stay behind. Success leaves clues, but only for those who are willing to look for them. Most people finish school, get a job, and never pick up a book again. They believe their education is complete. But success isn't about what you learned years ago. It's about what you continue to learn every single day. If you stop learning, you stop growing. And if you stop growing, you start declining. There is no standing still. You're either moving forward or you're falling behind. I once met a man who had a great education, top of his class, college degree, a job that paid well. But 10 years later, he was in the same place. No progress, no growth. And do you know why? Because he thought his education ended when he left school. He never picked up another book. He never developed new skills. He never sought out new knowledge. He was educated, but he was stuck. Then I met another man, no college degree, no formal education beyond high school, but he was a student of life. He read every day. He listened to wise men. He attended seminars. He took notes. He studied, and he applied what he learned. 10 years later, he had built a fortune. He had grown, expanded, and developed himself into someone of value. What's the difference? One man relied on formal education alone. The other took charge of his own learning. Wealth is not just about money, it's about value, and value comes from knowledge. The more you learn, the more you earn. If you want to become more, you must learn more. A person who reads one book a year will not have the same opportunities as the person who reads one book a week. A person who stops learning at 25 will be outperformed by someone who keeps learning at 50. History is filled with examples of people who took self-education seriously. A man once said, "A person who won't read has no advantage over the person who can't read." Think about that. If you have access to knowledge but choose not to seek it, you are no better off than someone who never had the opportunity in the first place. What you learn in school will prepare you to work for a company. What you learn on your own will prepare you to build an empire. Let's say you want financial success. School might teach you how to balance a checkbook, but will it teach you how to build wealth? Will it teach you how to manage money, invest wisely, or create multiple streams of income? No, because that's not part of the curriculum. You have to go beyond the classroom to learn those things. Or let's say you want to become an expert in your field. Your degree will give you the basics, but mastery requires continuous learning. The top professionals in every industry don't rely on what they learned years ago. They study, they adapt, they improve. They stay ahead by staying curious. One of the most valuable lessons I ever learned was this: you don't get paid for time, you get paid for value. And to increase your value, you must increase your knowledge. Every book you read, every seminar you attend, every lesson you apply, it all adds to your ability to contribute, to solve problems, to create something meaningful. Some people say, "But I don't have time to study." Let me tell you something. If you don't make time to learn, life will make time to teach you. And life's lessons are expensive. A bad investment will cost you money. A lack of knowledge will cost you opportunities. Ignorance is the most expensive thing in the world. You don't have to spend hours in a classroom to educate yourself. You can learn anywhere, on your commute, in the morning before work, in the evening before bed. You can read books, listen to recordings, watch great teachers speak. The resources are endless. But the question is, are you using them? Every great leader, every wealthy person, every highly successful individual has one thing in common. They never stop learning. They understand that education isn't something you finish, it's something you live. Success is not something you run after. It's not a destination out there waiting for you to chase it down. No, success is something you attract by the person you become. If you want to change your results, you have to change yourself. And that starts with education, not just academic education, but self-education. The daily process of learning, growing, improving. That's what makes the difference between those who struggle and those who succeed. I once had a conversation with a young man who told me he was frustrated. He said, "I'm working hard, but success just isn't coming my way." I asked him, what are you doing to become a person worthy of success? He looked confused. He thought that if he just worked harder, the results would come. But here's the truth. Success isn't about working harder. It's about working smarter. And to work smarter, you have to develop yourself. A man once said, don't wish it was easier, wish you were better. Don't wish for fewer problems, wish for more skills. That's the secret. If you want more success, you don't go chasing after it. You attract it by becoming more valuable. The marketplace doesn't reward effort, it rewards results. And results come from knowledge, skill, and character. I've seen it happen time and time again. Someone struggles for years, barely making progress because they're focused on the wrong thing. They're trying to force success instead of becoming the kind of person who naturally attracts it. Then something changes. They start reading, learning, and surrounding themselves with people who challenge them. And suddenly, opportunities start coming their way. Why? Because they became more valuable. Take wealth, for example. You develop the skills and mindset that make money flow toward you. Learn how to communicate better, how to lead, how to solve problems, how to bring value to others. The more valuable you become, the more rewards you attract. It's that simple. Or think about relationships. You don't go out chasing great friendships or business partnerships. You become the kind of person that others want to be around. You develop kindness, wisdom, and discipline. And when you do that, the right people find their way into your life. Now, this doesn't happen overnight. It takes time. It takes effort. It takes commitment to daily learning. Every book you read, every seminar you attend, every lesson you apply, it's all part of the process of becoming more. And when you become more, you attract more. Let me give you a practical example. Imagine two men starting the same job. One just does what's required. He shows up, does his work, and goes home. The other, he studies his craft. He reads books about his industry, listens to experts, and takes courses to improve his skills. A year later, who do you think gets promoted? Who gets the raise? Who attracts new opportunities? The one who became more valuable. This is why continuous education is the key. You can't expect better results without becoming better yourself. Success isn't some lucky accident. It's the result of preparation meeting opportunity. And if you're not preparing yourself, the opportunities will come and go, and you won't be ready for them. Some people say, I just need a lucky break. No, you don't. You need to grow into the kind of person who doesn't need luck, the kind of person who is ready when the right moment arrives. Because when you're prepared, success looks for you. I've always believed in the power of association. Who you spend time with determines what you become. If you surround yourself with people who are negative, lazy, or careless with their time, but if you spend time with people who challenge you, inspire you, and push you to grow, you'll naturally rise to their level. Many years ago, I had a mentor who told me something I never forgot. He said, if you want success, you have to become the kind of person success is attracted to. That one idea changed my life. Instead of chasing after success, I started working on myself. I read books, studied great leaders, and made personal development a priority. And as I improved, success started to come my way, not because I was chasing it, but because I was attracting it. You see, success is like a magnet. It doesn't come to people who wish for it. It doesn't come to people who complain about not having it. It comes to people who are prepared, who are growing, who are learning. So here's the key. Make personal development your daily habit. Read good books. Listen to great thinkers. Learn from those who have already achieved what you want. Become a student of success. And before you know it, you'll start seeing success show up in your life. Not because you were chasing it, but because you became the kind of person who naturally attracts it. Your mind is the most powerful tool you have. It can either be your greatest asset or your greatest liability. Everything starts with how you think, the way you view the world, the way you respond to challenges, the way you handle success and failure. It all comes down to your mindset. If you want a better life, start by developing a better way of thinking. I once met a man who told me, I just can't seem to get ahead. No matter what I do, something always pulls me back. I asked him, what do you spend your time thinking about? He paused for a moment, then admitted, mostly my problems, my struggles, the things that go wrong. And there it was. The answer to his problem. See, your thoughts direct your actions, and your actions determine your results. If you fill your mind with doubt, fear, and negativity, Your life will reflect those thoughts. But if you train your mind to focus on solutions, opportunities, and personal growth, your actions will align with that thinking. A wise man once said, "As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he." That means you become what you think about most of the time. If you constantly think about your limitations, they will become your reality. But if you focus on possibilities, you will find a way to turn them into achievements. Your mindset is like the soil of your life. You plant weeds, negative thoughts, doubt, laziness, you will grow a field of failure. But if you plant good seeds, discipline, education, resilience, you will harvest success. That's why it's so important to guard what goes into your mind. Be careful about the books you read, the people you listen to, and the conversations you engage in, because every idea you absorb is shaping the way you think. Let me give you an example. Two people can face the exact same challenge, but one will see it as a disaster while the other will see it as an opportunity to grow. Why? Because of their mindset. One is programmed to see obstacles. The other is trained to see possibilities. If you want to build a powerful life, start by developing a powerful mind. Now, this doesn't happen overnight. You can't change your mindset in a single day, but you can change what you do every day. And over time, those small adjustments create a completely new way of thinking. Begin with what you feed your mind. Read books that challenge your thinking. Study biographies of great men and women who overcame adversity. Listen to people who have achieved what you want and learn how they think. The more you expose yourself to wisdom, the more it becomes part of your thinking. There was a time in my life when I was stuck in a cycle of mediocrity. I wanted more, but my thinking kept me limited. Then I learned that if I wanted to change my circumstances, I had to change my philosophy. I started reading, studying, surrounding myself with people who were ahead of me in life. And slowly my mindset shifted. I started to see possibilities where I once saw problems. I started to take action where I once hesitated. And that change in mindset led to a change in results. If you want to build wealth, you have to think like someone who creates wealth. Poor thinking leads to poor decisions, and poor decisions lead to a poor life. Rich thinking, on the other hand, leads to wise choices, and those choices create abundance. But it all starts in the mind. Many people spend their lives waiting for circumstances to change before they change their thinking. But that's backwards. If you wait for the world to improve before you improve yourself, you'll be waiting forever. The right approach is to change your mind first, and then watch as your world changes in response. You can see this principle in every area of life. Take health, for example. If you think like someone who values their body, you'll naturally make better choices. Eating well, exercising, getting proper rest. But if you don't value your health, your actions will reflect that, and eventually you'll pay the price. The same is true for relationships. If you think about how to add value to others, how to become a person of kindness, wisdom, and patience, you'll attract strong relationships. But if you focus only on what you can take from others, you'll find yourself alone and struggling. This is why you must take control of your thoughts. Every day, take time to reflect on what you are feeding your mind. Ask yourself, am I focusing on problems or solutions? Am I thinking like a victim or a winner? Am I surrounding myself with people who challenge and inspire me? Because here's the truth, you cannot outperform your own thinking. If your mind is small, your life will be small. If your mind is filled with excuses, your results will be filled with failure. But if your mind is trained for growth, for discipline, for success, then nothing can stop you. So make a decision today. Start developing a powerful mindset. Read, reflect, and refine your thinking daily. Surround yourself with knowledge, wisdom, and positive influences. Because when you change the way you think, you change everything. Hard work is important. There's no substitute for effort. If working hard was the only requirement for success, every construction worker, every factory laborer, every farmer would be wealthy. But that's not how it works. The truth is, success comes from working hard and working smart. And working smart starts with educating yourself every single day. I remember meeting a man who told me, I work harder than anyone I know, but I never seem to get ahead. I asked him, what do you study? What do you read? What skills have you developed? He looked at me confused and said, I don't have time for all that. I'm too busy working. And there was his problem. He was moving, but he wasn't progressing. He was moving, but he wasn't progressing. He was working, but he wasn't growing. Hard work without knowledge is like running on a treadmill. You exert effort, but you don't get anywhere. There's an old saying, if you give me 6 hours to chop down a tree, I'll spend the first 4 sharpening the axe. It's the difference between working hard and working smart. Some people spend their lives swinging a dull axe, exhausting themselves with effort, never realizing they could cut the tree down in half the time if they had just stopped to sharpen their tools. And what are the tools in life? Knowledge, skills, strategy, the way you think. That's what separates those who struggle from those who thrive. I once met a man who worked 12-hour days, 6 days a week, doing back-breaking labor. And then I met another man who worked 6-hour days, 5 days a week, but made 10 times as much money. The difference? The second man had studied business. He had learned how to leverage his time. He understood how to build systems that worked for him. He had educated himself on how money works. See, in every industry, there are people working themselves to the bone. And then there are people who have learned how to create value in a smarter way. A man who reads one good book on money will have an advantage over a man who works hard his whole life, but never learns how to manage or grow his wealth. A man who studies negotiation will make better deals than a man who simply works harder, but never learns how to communicate effectively. That's why educating yourself daily is so critical. It gives you the edge. It allows you to make decisions that multiply your results. It helps you spot opportunities that others miss. Think about farmers. 100 years ago, farming was done almost entirely by physical labor. Today, a single machine can do the work of 50 men. The farmer who refuses to educate himself on new technology will be left behind, struggling to keep up. But the farmer who studies, who learns, who adapts, he thrives. The same principle applies in business, in finance, in personal growth. If you don't take the time to educate yourself, you'll always be at the mercy of those who do. That's why I tell people, read, study, learn from those who have succeeded before you, attend seminars, listen to great thinkers, surround yourself with people who challenge your way of thinking. Now, some people say, but I don't have time to read. I'm too busy working. It's like saying, I'm too busy driving to stop and get gas. If you never stop to refuel, eventually you'll run out of energy. Learning is what keeps you moving forward. A great philosopher once said, give me a lever long enough and I'll move the world. Knowledge is that lever. It allows you to do more with less. It allows you to achieve success faster, but you have to make the commitment to keep learning. And here's something important. Don't just learn randomly. Learn strategically. If you want to be wealthy, study wealth. If you want to be a leader, study leadership. If you want to be successful in any area, find out what the best in that field know and learn it, because success leaves clues. And those clues are found in books, in mentorship, in daily education. I once heard a story about 2 men who started at the same company at the same time. One worked hard but never spent time learning beyond his job. The other spent an hour every day reading books about leadership, finance, and business. 10 years later, the first man was still in the same position, working just as hard as ever. The second man, he was the CEO. Why? Because he worked smart. He didn't just put in effort, he invested in knowledge. So make a decision today. Don't just work hard, work smart. Take time every single day to educate yourself. Read, study, seek out wisdom, because the more you learn, the more you can earn, and the better choices you can make. It's a simple but powerful truth. Your income rarely exceeds your personal development. If you want to earn more, you must become more. Money doesn't flow to those who simply wish for it. It flows to those who have developed the skills, knowledge, and mindset to attract it. If you want to change your income, you must first change yourself. I once met a man who told me, I just can't seem to get ahead financially. He worked hard, but his paycheck never seemed to grow. I asked him, how much time do you spend every day learning something new? What books are you reading? What skills are you developing? He said, I don't have time for that. I'm too busy working. And that was the problem. He was stuck because he had stopped growing. See, money is a byproduct of the value you bring to the marketplace, and value is created through personal development. If you don't grow, neither will your income. If you stay the same, your paycheck will stay the same. That's why you see people working the same job for 20 years with little to show for it. They haven't upgraded their skills, their thinking, or their knowledge, so their financial situation hasn't upgraded either. But then you meet another person who started at the same job but now owns the company. What's the difference? Personal development. One man settled for what he knew, while the other made it his mission to learn, to grow, to expand his capabilities. And because he became more valuable, his income increased to match. I'll never forget a lesson I learned early in my career. I had a mentor who told me, if someone hands you $1 million, you better become a millionaire in your mind real fast or you're going to lose it. And that's exactly why lottery winners go broke. They receive money that far exceeds their personal development. They don't have the mindset, the financial knowledge, or the habits to manage that kind of wealth. So the money disappears. On the other hand, look at the people who started with nothing and became wealthy. They didn't just make money. They became the kind of person who could handle wealth. They invested in their mindset. They read books. They sought mentors. They developed the discipline and the wisdom to keep and grow their wealth. That's why personal development must come first. If you want to increase your income, don't just ask for a raise. Become more valuable. Develop new skills. Learn how to solve bigger problems. The marketplace rewards those who bring knowledge, expertise, and solutions. I met a young man once who was struggling financially. He was earning minimum wage and felt stuck. I asked him, what skills do you have that make you valuable? He thought for a moment and said, well, I know how to follow instructions. I said, that's good, but it won't make you wealthy. The marketplace doesn't pay for effort. It pays for results. You need to develop skills that set you apart. So I gave him a challenge. For the next year, invest an hour every day into learning something valuable. Study leadership, sales, finance, whatever excites you. He took the challenge. A year later, he had tripled his income. He didn't get lucky, he got better. This is why the wealthiest people are lifelong learners. They understand that their income is a reflection of their personal development. They don't wait for opportunities to come to them. They prepare for opportunities before they arrive. They read books, attend seminars, and surround themselves with successful people. One of the best pieces of advice I ever received was this: work harder on yourself than you do on your job. If you work hard on your job, you can make a living. But if you work hard on yourself, you can make a fortune. Because when you grow, everything around you grows. Your income, your opportunities, your relationships, your entire life. So if you want to change your financial future, start by changing yourself. Invest in your education, not just formal education, but self-education. Read books that challenge your thinking. Learn new skills that make you valuable. Develop the mindset of success, because when you grow into a person of value, the money will follow. Time is life. Every moment that passes is a piece of your life you can never get back. The question is, how are you spending it? Because the way you spend your time determines the future you build. If you waste your time, you waste your potential. But if you invest your time wisely, you can create a life of success, wealth, and fulfillment. I once met a man who told me, I just don't have time to learn. He wanted success, he wanted to improve his life, but he always had an excuse. Too busy, too tired, too many responsibilities. So I asked him, how many hours a week do you watch television? He hesitated. Well, maybe 15 or 20. I said, that's enough time to read 50 books a year. He looked at me stunned. See, most people don't lack time, they lack priority. We all get the same 24 hours in a day. The difference between those who succeed and those who struggle isn't time. It's how they use it. The wealthy, the successful, the wise, they understand that time is their greatest asset. They don't waste it. They use it to grow, to learn, to get better. I remember when I first started on my journey of success, I wasn't making much money, I was struggling. But I made a decision. I would dedicate time every single day to learning. I set aside 30 minutes to read something valuable. I listened to educational programs while driving instead of mindless radio. I replaced entertainment with self-improvement. And that simple decision changed everything. Because what you learn today determines what you can earn tomorrow. Most people don't realize how much time they waste on things that don't add value to their lives. They scroll through social media for hours, watch endless television, and wonder why they're stuck. Success doesn't come from luck. It comes from discipline. Discipline to use your time wisely, discipline to educate yourself daily. One of the best pieces of advice I ever received was this: don't start your day until you have it finished on paper. Plan your time. Be intentional about how you use it. If you don't control your time, it will control you. And before you know it, years will pass and you'll be in the same place wondering where all the time went. Look at the most successful people in the world. They have the same 24 hours as everyone else, but they prioritize learning. They read books that challenge their thinking. They study strategies to grow their wealth. They invest their time in personal development, knowing that every minute spent learning today pays dividends tomorrow. I once met a young man who was struggling financially. He worked hard, but he wasn't making progress. I asked him, how much time do you spend each day learning something new? He admitted, not much. So I gave him a challenge. Dedicate 30 minutes a day to studying wealth, business, and success. Just 30 minutes. He took the challenge. A year later, his income had doubled. Not because he worked harder, but because he worked smarter. He used his time wisely. Time is life, and once it's gone, you don't get it back. Don't waste it. Don't let it slip through your fingers on things that don't serve you. Invest it in yourself. Read good books. Listen to great minds. Learn something valuable every single day. Because how you use your time will determine the life you create. Your mind is like fertile soil. It will grow whatever is planted in it. The question is, what kind of seeds are being sown? Because whether you realize it or not, your environment is shaping you every single day. The conversations you hear, the attitudes you absorb, the mindsets you surround yourself with, these things determine your future. I once met a man who had big dreams. He wanted to succeed, he wanted to grow, but there was one problem. His environment. Every day he spent time with people who had no ambition. They laughed at the idea of personal development. They dismissed books as a waste of time. They criticized anyone who tried to improve, and slowly, without realizing it, he started thinking the same way. His dreams became smaller, his drive faded. His mindset shifted to match his surroundings. See, it's not just about what you learn. It's about who you learn from. If you surround yourself with people who don't value wisdom, your own wisdom will suffer. If you spend your time with those who complain, blame, and settle for less, it will rub off on you. But if you associate with thinkers, learners, and achievers, their influence will elevate you. I remember when I started my journey towards success, I was hungry for knowledge. I wanted to grow, to achieve more. And I realized something important. If I wanted to change my life, I had to change who I listened to. So I read books written by great minds. I listened to mentors who had achieved what I wanted. I attended seminars and surrounded myself with people who inspired me. And little by little, my mindset shifted, my confidence grew, my results changed. There's an old saying, if you hang around 5 millionaires, you'll be the 6th. But if you hang around 5 broke people, guess what? You'll be the 6th there too. Because your environment shapes your thinking, and your thinking shapes your future. Think about a tree. If you plant it in bad soil, it struggles to grow. It becomes weak. It doesn't reach its full potential. But if you plant that same tree in rich, fertile soil, it thrives. It grows strong. It produces fruit. Your mind works the same way. If you place yourself in an environment of growth, you will grow. If you surround yourself with wisdom, you will become wise. I once met a young man who wanted to improve his life. He worked hard, but he felt stuck. I asked him, who do you spend the most time with? He hesitated. Mostly my old friends from school, but they don't really care about success. I told him, if you want to grow, you need to be around people who are growing. He took that advice seriously. He started attending events where successful people gathered. He found mentors. He replaced time-wasting conversations with discussions about goals, business, and personal development. And in just a few years, his entire life changed. Not because he worked harder, but because he changed his environment. Now, you might say, I can't just leave my friends behind. And that's true. You don't have to cut people out of your life, but you do have to make a decision. Are you letting them influence you, or are you influencing them? If they don't value growth, you must be careful. because negativity is contagious. Small thinking is contagious, but so is wisdom, so is success. That's why books are so powerful. If you don't have successful people around you, you can still learn from them. A book is like having a conversation with the greatest minds in history. You can sit down with thinkers, leaders, and achievers, all through reading. If you want to develop your mindset, protect your environment. Choose your circle carefully. Surround yourself with people who challenge you, who inspire you, who push you to be better. If you don't have those people in your life yet, find them in books, in speeches, in learning, because your environment will shape your future. And the right environment will set you on the path to success. Life is always moving, always changing, and whether you realize it or not, so are you. Every day, you are either improving or declining. There is no standing still. You're either becoming wiser, stronger, and more capable, or you're losing ground. And the difference between those who succeed and those who struggle? It's simple. The successful make the decision to grow every single day. I once met a man who told me, I don't need to learn anymore. I already know enough. And that was his biggest mistake. Because the moment you stop learning, you stop growing. And when you stop growing, you start declining. You may not notice it at first, but little by little, your edge fades. Your skills weaken, your confidence drops, and before you know it, opportunities that once seemed within reach start slipping away. Think about a tree. If it stops growing, it starts dying. There is no in-between, and your mind works the same way. The only way to keep it strong, sharp, and capable is through daily learning. I once asked a young man what he did to improve himself each day. He shrugged and said, I don't have time for that. But later I saw him scrolling through his phone, wasting hours on entertainment that added nothing to his future. See, it's never about not having time. It's about how you use your time. And the truth is, if you don't prioritize learning, your mind will become weak. I remember when I started my journey, I wasn't the smartest, I wasn't the most talented, but I made a decision. I would learn something valuable every single day. I read books, listened to wise men, and took notes on everything I could. And over time, I saw the difference. I spoke with more confidence. I made better decisions. I spotted opportunities that I would have missed before. But here's the thing. Learning isn't just about gaining knowledge. It's about keeping your mind sharp. It's about staying ahead. Because the world is always changing. The economy changes. Opportunities change. The skills required to succeed change. And if you're not constantly learning, you'll wake up one day and realize the world has moved forward, but you haven't. A man once told me, I don't like to read. I said, then you're going to like struggling a whole lot less. Because the price of ignorance is far higher than the price of learning. The man who reads every day will always have an advantage over them. The man who studies his craft will always outperform the one who relies on what he learned 10 years ago. Look at the most successful people. They never stop learning. The wealthiest individuals still read, still study, still seek out new knowledge. Why? Because they know that growth is the key to staying ahead. Now, you might say, but I don't know where to start. Start with one book, start with 30 minutes a day. Start by replacing just 1 hour of entertainment with education, because small daily improvements lead to massive results over time. I once knew a man who was struggling financially. He worked hard, but no matter how much effort he put in, he couldn't seem to get ahead. I asked him, how many books have you read on money? He looked at me confused. None. There was his problem. He was working hard, but he wasn't learning how money works. So I told him, start with one book. He took my advice. He started studying wealth, learning about investing, and understanding how money moved. A few years later, his entire financial situation changed. Not because he worked harder, but because he worked smarter by educating himself. This is the secret. Every day you learn, you improve. And every day you don't, you decline. If you're not actively feeding your mind, the world will feed it for you with distractions, with negativity, with things that don't add value to your life. And if you're not careful, you'll find yourself falling behind without even realizing it. The good news is improvement is always within your control. You don't need talent, luck, or special circumstances. You just need the commitment to learn something new every single day. Make it a habit. Make it non-negotiable. Read, listen, take notes, reflect. because the knowledge you gain today will create the opportunities of tomorrow. And remember this: while others are wasting time, you're investing in yourself. While others are declining, you're rising. And one day, the gap between you and them will be so wide, they'll wonder how you did it.